So we're going to start off with the first event that I want to cover this weekend, from this weekend, right, is the TGX GT in Leon Miranda with 100 tickets being done. So out of this place, Orcs actually did do quite well, as one of the lists we're going to cover today with my boy John Henry actually got second place, as we can see here. So here is John Henry's list. So let's take a quick look at it, and I'll just say right now, boys, before I go into this, yes, this is the straight up Orc archetype that I would base most competitive lists are going to look like or be based around, right, with some of the key units we're going to see in here, and I'll explain why. So we have 2 beast bosses on foot. That's because we really need some devastating wounds back in the day, back again, and because you know, even volume of punches against T3, T4 infantry really will matter there. So beast bosses being able to work outside of the wall is a big factor. Sustained 6s is really great for their devastating ability. You stack critical 5s on there. You re-roll his from the beast and Snagga Boyz data sheet ability. Then you're able to spike and put like 14 dev wounds into a monster. One way you can actually hopefully go to toe with some Tyranids, right? Then you have a triple war bosses on here, and that's because we're now going quite knob heavy since we lost mega knobs. We're a little thin on squigs, stuff like that. You're going to see just knobs. Knobs are our one data sheet. They're kind of like a, you know, wannabe death company. You know, we can get up to strength 10 sometimes. We can put some good volume and AP on you, but we obviously have a bit more limitations. Giving them follow me lads is a big way to kind of counter that in a transport, right? So we have a big follow me lads unit. As you can see here, there's 10 mega knobs on the right. And then 2 war bosses. That's for the 2 knob units, looking like a bit more like SWAT teams is what I like to call them. And then 1 war boss on mega armor with super cyborg body. And then he only has 2 mega knobs. Sorry, there's no mega knobs alongside him. Sorry, because there's only 2 mega knobs on the list I was going to say. And those are more likely to go with Ghazghkull Thraka. Then we have Boss Snikrot chilling with the low op so you can play the mission. As for this list, we can see we have 2 units of Beast Snaggers, like I said, 1 boys unit. This list was a bit fun to look at. Yeah, fun. 1 1 basic boys unit, 1 Flash Gitz unit. That's to help with the SWAT team loadout building fully out, right? Put them in the truck, put a war boss, 5 knobs, Flash Gitz in 1 truck, go play a flank. You have a nice combined arms unit right there. 2 Gretchen units. I like 2 Gretchen units. One's obviously for farming CP, but the other is really just a screen. You don't want to deal with 3-inch deep strikes. Orcs don't really like for anybody to get behind them. It's horrible for us to go backwards. And then 2 Storm Boys, followed by 3 trucks. Yes, 3 trucks. 3 trucks seems to be the key number. It seems to be the way that it is. You know, some people go for more, some people try to go for less. It just, like I said, this is the straight up Orc archetype that I would say, just like our player here did with John Henry getting second place at this GT. This is pretty much the exact list I would assume an Orc player would take that's going to get that sort of performance. Very few exceptions that can go on here, right? Like maybe you would say you wouldn't take boys, you would take more Flash Gitz, something simple like that. So you can have more trucks, but I mean, some more SWAT trucks. But at the same time, a boys sticky objective is actually quite great. The one thing I want to point out that's the only new kind of tech piece on here that I would say is on this list that you wouldn't see too often is the War Boss and Mega Armor with Super Cyborg Body. I do like that. It's a nice different tech piece. A lot of different armies go. I'm going to take a single character, let's say a Grey Knight Librarian, let's say a Space Wolf Terminator, just whatever, even Leagues of Voltan, little thick yelling dudes, right? Those guys still would end up being individual on lists if they can come back to life. Something like a War Boss and Mega Armor, -1 toughness, for a Feel No Pain, coming in from the side of the board table, even being in a truck and just Kool-Aid Manning out the bottom of the side of the truck to play a flank could be quite interesting. Hard to get some trades out of him. He does suffer for very low amount of attacks. War Horde helps him a little bit, so you can hope to get a 6 here and there. But other than that, you know, it is what it is. He's just straight up there to act as a roadblock, heroic intervention, whatever he can do, and participate in the game, scoring secondaries. You know, some of them require you to stay alive. He can actually hide from the majority of guns and then do a secondary and just stand in the corner. Shout out to John Henry for this list. Today's sponsor, Baron of Dice. So Baron of Dice has great dice. They have actually enabled us to give these dice out for our paint competitions. So I greatly advise that you go out there. We have a link in the description for 5% discount. That's of course because nobody likes taxes. Shout out to Baron of Dice because they are actually customizing Orc dice just for us that you guys will be able to get a hold of, and they look exceptional. So shout out to Baron of Dice. Really appreciate you guys, and I really do suggest you get them. I love the actual texture these dice have. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Let's take a look at his matchups. Now, like I always say, I think going over a player's win path is quite important. These lists are not here when we show them for you to directly copy. This is to kind of get your blood flowing. Obviously, not everybody has the same models, whatever it may be, but the structure of this list and to see what he goes into does help you get kind of a bit more context. That's way if you're looking and building this list, you're running something similar, but you see even at the top level, you're losing to the same person he's losing to, and detachment-wise or faction-wise, you can see that there's a bit of just difficulty with the faction versus faction sometimes, right? Or you can see, hey, he overcame something that I'm having struggles with. Is my list looking similar? Does it make sense? What tools am I missing? So that's why we do this. Now, let's look at his first matchup. So as for his first matchup, we have Adeptus Mechanicus. This is one of those things where you're like, either you have a bit of knowledge on this army or you don't. And that's kind of one of the hardest things to deal with sometimes, is to say, hey, I don't know anything about this person's army and I'm playing the game. And then they tell you and they're like, well, if I stand here and I get additional AP in another turn, I get +1 to hit. And then I also have a strat to give myself a 5 of funeral pain, but right. And I actually don't even think that's what this is these are the Radizone corpse, whatever that means. So I don't think that was even what I'm that familiar with. So we have a Tech Priest Dominus and a Tech Priest Engine Seer, a Tech Priest Manipulus, Techno Archaeologist, and another Techno Archaeologist. Ooh, I said a big word. All right, then we have a Skatari Ranger, 1, 2, 3. 3 units of Skatari Rangers and 1 Skatari Vanguard unit, followed by 1 Scorpius Dune Rider, 3 Iron Striders with twin Cognis las cannons. I feel like when you're taking these just to get strat buffs and everything, maybe 2, maybe even 3, but 1 is fine for like not enough trading, I guess. Then we have 1 unit of Cataphon Destroyers. They do work, but they're kind of pricey for their chassis, right? A Onager Doomcrawler, another Onager Doomcrawler. These are actually low-key sleeper good units. Followed by Sky Stalkers, Sicilian Infiltrators, Scorpec Disintegrators, and Socodian Dragoon with Tez Lancer. That's only one of those models, though, by the way. And then Caladius Assassin. In this sort of matchup, when you're running that basic War Horde type of list where you're just running your way up the table, there's nothing really on this list to contend the middle or even reliably contend the flank, right? You very much hope that maybe one of these last cannon chickens can get an angle on your truck and pop it, and then you can start getting some lines of fire. But with the new terrain setup, you do need some kind of infantry counter punch to kind of deal with orcs once you disembark them and hit them in War Horde, and that's not something this list has. This list very much has, I just have a bunch of decent sized durability vehicles making my way around the table and a bit of these battle line units that even a decimated unit of orcs can deal with. Like I said earlier, if you have a Beast Snagga Boyz on the wall, you're strength 6 going into these stalkers. Even if they lost 4 or 5 of those boys, they're getting crumped up. And these Iron Striders, even if it's a solo beast boss, after the whole unit's gone, he can punch through these guys. So it's kind of like perpetual momentum thing with the orcs and going into this matchup. Not enough to hold their ground against them. Not to mention you have Ghazghkull, which sometimes can just say, I'm going to bully you in the middle of the table. You commit to me, and then you get counter punch because I ride that 2-up invuln to victory. So it is what it is, but I like to see it. At least Adamex kind of making an appearance. He did put up 95 points there. So I think he was familiar enough. Now we're going to look at his one and only loss, and he did lose to the person who won the event right here, Nick Gilingo, with Astra Militarum, and it's a 3-point difference game, guys. 3 points difference. So very, 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 very good performance and output by him. And we'll take a look at this list and possibly why that could be. Now, it's loading. Give me a second. I guess I was clicking too much. Astra Militarum. You don't like it? You don't like me? We'll look at this list like that. Haha. So as for, I just make sure. Yeah, it is Nick. Okay. So as for Nick's list, the person who won this GT went undefeated. We have Lord Solar Leontis. That's for his orders and additional CP. Militarum Tempestus Squad. These guys are great for coming in from deep strike and then just blowing someone off the table. Tank Commander with Grand Strategist. 1, 2, 3, 4 Chimeras. Brutal. Chimeras have great defensive profiles for what transport they are, and only 70 points for 5 more points than a truck. It's just that our battle line's better, and and our units that can go inside of them are better. But there's decent ones on this list. Then we have 2 units of Atalan Rough Riders, very good anti-infantry punching. They have these hunting lances that are pretty good. They damage 3, I believe they can get on those 2. The Steeds get the hit as well. Then he also has 3 units of Bulgrin, 2 of them being 3-man units and 1 of them being a max level unit, so of 6 models total. Like we said earlier, with what we hate with durability, with reduced damage, right here we can see these Bulgrin are a nice thick toughness. As we've seen in this list, though, they're carrying The big units carrying brute shields. I want to make sure they'll kind of break the shields because there's a difference in the shields. Brute shield, brute shield, brute shield. Okay, so they are bringing brute shields, and the brute shield gives you the 4-up invul. And then this unit already has wall of muscle, which is subtract 1 damage from them. So they're sitting at 3 wounds a pop, T6, 4-up invul, reduce damage by 1, and they have a built-in 6-up feel no pain. So we love to see that. We love to see that as orc players. No, we actually don't. That's enough to get commitment out of us, like a reliable commitment. Like Snagga Boyz being at a strength 5 means you're like, oh man, normally if you were the same toughness, strength is my toughness, it'd be decent matchup, but in this case, it's not, winning them on 5s. He also has 2 Lehman Russ Exterminators, which are quite proficient profiles. They're also kind of cheap, so you don't really like mind losing them too much. They're just proficient to orcs because they have auto cannons, not great armor saves, 2 Ogren squads. These guys are just cheap for 65 points with similar profiles to their counterparts. A Rapier laser destroyer, followed by 1, 2, 3 units of deep striking Tempestus Scion. I believe this was probably a KG game. We don't really know what the mission was. I think that would play a big factor into this because as durable as Bolgren are and the Ogren are, it's not like you can just disrespect orcs by getting, by letting them walk into you and just punch you off the table. But in the same time, as the orc player, you can't let Adelan Rough Riders countercharge you on the back of also getting hit with the tanks and tank orders, the tank commander squad. Not to mention that those Bolgren squads, the 3-man units, can also go inside of these chimeras. And orcs really aren't popping transports, especially not a chimera effectively. So as we're playing the transport game, they have 1 more transport than us. They also have gun support fire, and then they have just a nice durability debuff against us with just enough offensive proficiency as Bolgren, because they're an offensive wise. They carry the mauls, and the mauls are strength 7 -1, 2 damage for 4 attacks each. So even that's good enough to punch, knobs. We'll say that if a couple of them survive, they punch back on the knobs. They can very much kill them back in return, or be Snagga Boyz, whatever it is. So this was definitely a very cagey game. 3 points difference, man. It could have gone anywhere. Somewhere in the secondaries, they got lost in there. Do orcs have the ability to beat this list? Yes, because at the same time, the Chimera cannot afford to get wrapped and trapped and then just not allow them Bolgren to disembark. So he can't be so annoying to stick them in your face when you're running 10 units of boys. And you also can't allow Gaz to get into your Bolgren because he is at least damage 4. So even though you're reducing it by 1, Gaz will offset that with his 5 damage 3, and then you're kind of just hoping extra 6s. So there are things we can do here. And most likely he did. So shout out to him for putting up such a good game into one of our harder matchups, as we've been saying all the time, and we've seen in the stats. So into his 3rd game after that loss, he put up another win of 98 points. As you'll see from here on out, he just puts on over 90-point victories on everybody with this straight up basic indexed War Horde list. You know what? I think the War Moss Omega armor with the Feel No Pain might have played a bit of a factor into that. I like that. So we have a Necron with Hypercrypt Legion, a Catan Shard of the Nightbringer, Emotech Stormlord, Plasmancer, Scorpec Lord, and a Technomancer, followed by 1, 2 units of Immortals, a big unit of Immortals, 1, 2, 3 units of Scarabs, followed by a Wraith Deathmarks, 1 unit of Flayed Ones for Infiltration, 2 Locust Destroyers, a Monolith, and then Scorpec Destroyers. As we can see here, like 1 unit of Scorpec Destroyers hates the fact that you can fight on death. Wraiths hate War Horde. The amount of volume we can put into them at the right strength and just volume of punches ones, we're like, yes, we get it to T6, we'll punch you out, and then you just deal with Wraiths. So Wraiths aren't safe here. We're also precision out their characters if they give us a chance. And Necrons are one of those armies we can just kind of pressure. Hypercrypt, you do need to fill the table and not let them get behind you. And when you have Gaz on your list and Snagga Boyz, you do have a chance to deal with the Nightbringer, right? You get a little bit of chip damages to them as you can. Put those guys into here, pop Unbridled Carnage, you have Gaz's lethal within range, you re-roll the hit roll for all the Snagga Boyz, and you fish for those 5s and 6s so that they're lethal. And then the Beast Boss also goes off and gives him some dev wounds. Should be enough damage to usually put him away, as long as you have like a full unit hitting him, which is kind of hard to do with how little his base. But Necrons are just one of those armies I think orcs do moderately well into. The player's skill and familiarity with each other's lists goes a long way in that one, right? Well, I'm going to have to catch up in chat here. All right, let me do one more matchup, and then I'll catch up in chat real quick, guys, because you guys are going hot right now. You guys are going hot. I don't want to fall behind here. Then we have Grey Knights. So we have Orc going into Grey Knights. We have a Grand Master, followed by Caldo Drago, which allows them to pretty much he'll come in, give them plus, I believe, +3 to their charge. So you're getting like 6-inch charges from these guys. So that's fun. With this one big brick of 10 Terminators, 3 units of Strike Marines, which are very valuable units. They get sticky objective, they get the scout, they get a bunch of different rules. They have the volume, they have the strength 6 to punch Orc Boys at damage 2. So they're, and still have a 2-up armor save. Inceptors, a big brick of Paladins, followed by 3 Purgation Squads. What I will say is, like, I appreciate that he tried to mix it up, but just going straight Dread Knights would have probably been better than these Purgation Squads. They're not bad by any means. Like I said, Purgation Squads are not bad. Side Cannons are dope. They're just not the volume for Orcs, and they're not the right profile for Orc. I would say Paladins are the right profile for Orcs. These guys ignore modifiers, so even if you're in War Horde and you're trying to get yourself hard as nails, simply not going to go. They have a volume of side cannons that do quite good work, but it is 450 points. Just keep in mind that to play against Grey Knights, you have to be familiar with their shenanigans. This is another one, just like with the Necrons, or really a lot of the Orc matchups at the moment. Your understanding of the army and what they can do really will determine how you play them, and if they pretty much get you with any of their shenanigans abilities, right? If you allow Paladins to just drop into your home objective like turn 2, and your army has to turn around and try to crump them, that would suck, and they might even survive a little bit, but they can clear you off your home objective. If you don't put anything in Deep Strike and you allow the Strike Squad to just be like, oh, I'll sticky this, and then just start running around the table and go into Deep Strike and then come in late game, or turn 3, 4, or 5, whatever it is, they can pressure you in return once you start kind of hoarding in one direction. Knowing their strats, that they could pick themselves up, that they can reactionary move, is very, very important for you as an Orc player, and just sticking to the mission. Like I said, though, one thing that they very much benefit from are having more Dread Knights, because Dread Knights having the strength 10, -3, ignoring cover, having flamers, somewhat idly durable chassis and hard to get to chassis means that you get more value for your buck against Orcs. In this case, you're kind of choosing to go toe-to-toe to them in like a fair game, because you're just a bunch of Space Marine bodies at the end of the day with 2-up armor saves, and Orcs can deal with that. Then, and I'm sure, like we know, John Henry is just pretty much good. So now as for his 5th matchup, we have Chaos Demons. So Be'lakor, the great unclean one with the endless gift for his feel no pain of a 4+. Shalaxi Hellbane, who likes to slap, and Scarbrand, followed by 1 unit of small Nurglings, a big unit of Nurglings, a unit of Plague Bearers, Blood Crushers, Flamer, Flush Hounds. Blood Crushers are freaking awesome. I just want to say that right now as an Orc player, Orc players, if you ever see Blood Crushers, just know you got to kill them, and they have their profiles. Look them up. They do mortal wounds, or nice toughness, good damage output, really big bases, hard to maneuver, but demons can like come within 3, come within 6, come within 9, and then they can charge when they're within 6. So they're just somebody you kind of have to pay attention to. For this list, it's really just comes down to, do you have Snagga Boyz with the Beast Bot? If you do, especially with gas, you can straight up punch out this Great Unclean One or Be'lakor. Great Unclean One, you know what? Honestly, I said that wrong. When he has the 4 at Feel No Pain, I ignore him. When I mean I ignore him is I literally will just put stuff around him. Like if he tries to move through buildings, put a truck in front of him, put a truck behind him. There you go. Just kind of chill there for a little bit, dude, while I go kill everything else. Okay, here I'm going to put some Flash Gitz in front of you, some Storm Boys behind you. Just stand here while I go do something else. And then you come back at the end when you've beat the crap out of everything else, and then you kill him at the end. But as for that, that's really how you would deal with it. You would use your screens reliably as an Orc player, not commit too much early, and then just really, really try to get a good counter punch on them. They do have shenanigans. Be'lakor won't matter here, and he should go down. Gaz can't reliably kill him, but Gaz could kill him in a 1v1. All these monsters, well, not all, 3 of these monsters fight respectively. The Great Unclean One can fight like, be Snagga Boyz if you leave him, but he might not even kill them all, to be honest. So other than that, you just have to worry about the Blood Crushers. Very, very good defensive and offensive profiles. This just straight volume and damage too. You want to get into them. So shout out to this demons list. Not bad at all. Love to see it. You have to be familiar with demons, and Orcs just kind of overall do well into them unless you're playing against Kevin. Then you have the final matchup. You have Space Marines with the Dark Angels Gladius Task Force. What are we going to see here, guys? What are we going to see here? Take a guess. Ready? 1, 2. Let's see. Apothecary Biologist, for final discipline, Azrael, because of course he's in Gladius. 1 Tech Marine, followed by 1 unit of Assault Intercessors, 1, 2, 3 unit of Assault Intercessors with Jump Pack, 1, 2, 3 units of Deathwing Knight. I see this guy as a very skilled player, very high level right here. And I am a little bit joking, guys. Then we have 1 unit of Eradicators, followed by 1 Gladiator Reaper, 1 Infiltrator, a Repulsor, and a Gladius Assassin. So welcome to the new bully boys. No, I'm just kidding. Deathwing Knights aren't bully boys because they don't really pressure the same way, but at the same time, they kind of can because they can advance in charge, do a bunch of different shenanigans, and they can get lance. They're very durable, blah blah blah. So they're a bit fun. You do have to be very aware of Deathwing Knights. We've talked about them a few times on the channel. Of course, damage reduction is something we hate to see. 2-up armor saves are something we hate to see. But these guys are able to be killed because they are limited to like 5-man squads. So take it for what it is. They do punch pretty good with those maces of absolution. This is just a very good combined army. You can see you have Asriel, so he can be stuck with some kind of shooting army, just like this Apothecary Biologus. You can go ahead and put him with most likely maybe those Eradicators seem to be the most likely suspect of him. And then just good tank support. So this is a good, well-rounded Space Marine list. No matter what the stats say about Space Marines, if you know a good Space Marine player that's playing Gladius, he can make it work. Space Marines have solid rules and solid abilities. But at the same time, orcs kind of do well into all of them. Because like I always say, at the end of the day, they are just T4 bodies. Sorry, just make sure I click that up so I didn't mess it. So shout out to John Henry, put up a nice fat 98 against that Deathwing list. Having knowledge of how those Terminators are going to work and then having the ability to work around them, play the mission, score, not overcommit to get table too early and then jump stuff as you can, especially if you stage on the wall and you're like, all right, I'm going to kill just this enough amount of your army and then leave that last unit of Deathwing Knights alone and go stand on that objective. It's kind of one of the plays you play there, right? Or just get into their backfield very quickly to start touching those tanks. So shout out to John Henry for doing so well at this event, going 5-1, really making a great showing for the orcs. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!